He's got some information that's very valuable. I want you to listen to what he has to say, and I want to congratulate you.
Thank you,
That was
sir.
great. Thanks, Ted.
So today is going to be a little bit of a different style, I guess, if you will, a different flow. The name of the class was about harnessing the power of sensitive periods, about times, transient times that happen in our life when we have access to certain things, I guess is the best way to say it. So we need to be aware of these things, and then we need to know how to harness that stuff. We need to know how to get the goods. How do we get the mojo? If it's a period of time, a transient little moment, or segment of time where we have access to something and an opportunity of growth, spiritual growth, mental psyche, we need to take advantage of that. So our conversation today is going to be about that. Here's the way I'm going to do this. I'm going to talk a lot about child development. So the development of a child through childhood and the development of their ability of self-awareness, self-esteem through a process of attachment, and explain these sensitive periods to you in respect and in these terms of child rearing. I don't really want to call it that, but the concept is still here the same. And here's why we're doing this, okay? Because the fact that you are an adult, I'm assuming you're an adult watching this, you are somebody's child, right? So this is about your potential as a human, and the ability to reach that potential has a lot to do with the relationship or attachment you have to those that are in your life. So maybe it's not your parents, maybe your parents aren't around anymore or something. But what I'm hoping will happen here is I explain some of these things. At the beginning, I'm seriously, I'm going to be talking about the developing child, but this applies to us as adults. I mean, we're like big kids anyway. It's stupid to think that because we physically mature, we're done with puberty and we're done getting big. We're not tiny anymore, that we're done growing. That's just not true. And I want you today, as we go through our lesson, I want you to take some notes about situations in your life and people in your life things that, let me even back up to say that I'm not exactly sure what's going to resonate with you today. And what I'm doing here is it's something I've never done before. Usually I prepare and I know all my material real good. So this is a newer concept and a new idea that I'm talking through. I got some notes here, but I want you to understand that I'm letting you guys just kind of hang out and watch me think out loud, I guess is a way to say that, because I really believe that this is important. And I've been fascinated with the way that we are raised in childhood and how that carries into our adult years and how it influences our life and the way we show up to life and, XYZ, our ability to resonate and attract people, places, stuff that match where we're at. And we may want something different. And if we're not getting that different thing, then it's because we're putting out a broadcast that isn't congruent with maybe what we want. Okay. We're getting what we're putting out. There's no doubt about that, but it may be not what we want. So again, I want you, as we go through our material today, I want you to be thinking about the stuff that pops into your mind. I want you to maybe make a few notes. Just write it down. Like I might be talking about something and you go, oh yeah, my relationship with my dad. Or you might say, oh yeah, my relationship with my daughter. Or yeah, that one time when at graduation, when the thing happened, there might be an event or something. I want you to make a few notes, okay? Because stuff is going to jump out at you, I promise. All right. And I was fortunate this morning to spend 4 hours at my son's school. He is 4 years old. He goes to a Montessori school. So he's in his second year there, second year. And if you don't know much about that style, I guess, well, that's not even the right word. It's really an approach to not necessarily just schooling and raising a child, but it's about the development of your highest potential is really the way that I see that. So I got to hang out and I got to see the way that the freedom that they give these kids. And so, he's 4 years old and he's doing all kinds of things that I never really expected. I mean, I guess a lot of them too, he was doing when he was 2 years old, like getting up and dressing himself and being potty trained and putting the dishes away when he was done with them and cleaning the table, and like blew my mind. Like I'd never seen kids do this. So I thought, well, my kid is special. I'm so awesome. My kid's special, but it is an inherent potential that exists inside of every one of us. And what I mean by that is we all have the ability to express from inside of us the birth of something amazing and incredible. It's all there. Now, it's not guaranteed to you. It's not just like inevitable. It doesn't just happen for everyone. It takes place for people that are, dare I say, it is a spontaneous type of growth that takes place for people that have been supported and nurtured with a correct environment, that it is not the environment that's conducive to the growth. The environment doesn't cause it, but the environment is so very important for that inner flower to blossom and to come out. And so where I want to begin today is this idea of attachment. And what I mean by attachment is a child in their development and in their growth, their ability to have adults in their life that are their caretakers. All right. So when I say attachment, I'm not necessarily mean like you hold your kids all the time, which is kind of what attachment theory is gone in that direction, I guess, or based on. So it's not about, you just have to pick your kid up and hold them all the time and carry them everywhere and never put them down. That's not what I mean by attachment. Attachment really is in alignment more with a sense of security and closeness through not only proximity, but an emotional closeness or a safety or a sort of blanket or environment that's provided for a child. So I got this note way over here, pages of notes all over my wall. So please, again, I'm going to kind of just talk through a concept here with you today. Let me use a bunch of notes and things. I really want to stress that what I'm talking about here is really about the way that it should be, not necessarily the way that it is. So I'm not arguing. I'm not going to bring up a debate about the state of the union and the way things are, but I'm going to talk about the way that they are supposed to be. That if we want to achieve, if we want to be awesome, if we want all the things we want out of life, if that's what should be, then how do we get that? It's like, if you don't understand how something should be, then how do you ever understand what the problem or the dilemma is? Okay. So that's where I'm kind of going with this, because I think that in the last several generations, 3 generations, our society, our civilization has changed a lot. And it has a lot to do with our growth and, the industrialization of our world and the way that we were meant to grow up in a sort of tribe with people that looked after us and protected us. But now we don't do that anymore. We don't have a tribe. I mean, most people I see, they walk out of their front door, they lock the door behind them, they run to their car, they lock the car door and they drive away. And then they do the same thing when they come home, and everything is just compartmentalized, that there is no, and I don't want to be cynical, there's no sense of community, because of course there is. And we're inherently social beings that strive to build community, and we thrive and grow in those environments. So we're always looking for that. But really what I'm speaking to is the way that it should be as a child. Our attachment should be to those adults that are responsible for us. So our primary attachment in this example is to our parents. So it might not be your parents, that's not always true either. There's not black and white. Like maybe your parents sucked, maybe they were horrible people. and your aunt saved you from it, or your grandparents or something like that, So I might say parents, but it's about the adults in our life that are responsible for us. It's about us being in orbit with them, right? So they're the sun and we're the planet that orbits around. Like, we have freedom and we have movement, but they're the centerpiece of it. So they're our primary attachment. And it's cool to be attached to things. I'm kind of attached to playing my guitar. I really like that. So, you can be attached to your friends, your peers, and stuff like that. The only time that it's a problem is when it interferes with that primary attachment. And what I'm saying by the fact that our world has grown at such a pace, that our civilization has changed so fast and has progressed in such a way that it has, undoubtedly affected our ability to, what's the word, to keep safe, to safeguard, to hold on to that primary attachment with the adults in our life that are responsible for us. What happens for a lot of kids, teenagers and stuff nowadays, is they're attaching to each other. And when these peers come together, they emulate each other and they do things like each other, and they look to each other for their cues of that nature. Because really, our primary attachment, what it serves for us, being attached to the adults that are responsible for us in closeness and proximity and caring and connection, it gives us our bearings. It gives us our sense that we matter. It lets us know what's important. It gives us an idea of where to take our cues from, how to behave, what we're supposed to do. It's like a big compass. So the problem is that I'm seeing a lot of people talk about just in this arena is that kids are not attached. Their primary attachment is not to the adults anymore, and it's to their peers. So what I'm saying here is that we are moving away from our ability to pass down information through our lineage, through this sort of tribal community, where the grandparents are there and they're overseeing and playing a role with the parents and the children and stepping in when they need to. And there's a dynamic and relationships that are crossing everything. And we're losing all of that. We're losing it because we're not in, I don't know who's at fault. I don't necessarily want to create blame here or anything like that. I'm just saying that now when kids are attaching primarily to peers, they're taking cues from peers, they're learning from peers, they're talking like, walking like, everything. They are wanting to serve and be obedient to their peers. They're taking cues from them. They're wanting to impress them. We lose our ability to pass down not only our teachings and our wisdom, but ultimately those children are robbed from what I said earlier is the environment that is needed in order for them to feel safe and let those inner, what's a good word for it? Like their inner flower to bloom. That sounds stupid. Their potential to be actualized, for the spirit inside of them to be like this fire that burns without consuming anything, for the expression of something so very deep in the soul of an individual that can only take place if that environment is safe. And what I'm saying is that through this idea of attachment that I'm introducing, we're going to build on here, that children nowadays do not have that sense of safety, and so they never get to express that. Are you with me? They never get the opportunity to they get robbed, really. They never reach that potential, and it's because the opportunity was never there. It may be inside of them wanting to get out, but the environment was never safe enough to do that. And in their development, they learned that the environment was not safe, and they had to shut it down, and they had to protect. They had to defend. They had to stop the hurt and the wounding. They had to make sure they were not vulnerable, and they had to numb themselves out to the world. And so as they became teenagers and then young adults, and as they moved into adulthood, they were numbed out and turned off and struggling with some deep-seated subconscious scarring that took place, even though in their adult life they're using their mind to say, I want to attract all of these great things, and I have my vision board on the wall, and I'm reading all the right books, and I'm doing all the right stuff, but it's not happening for me. I'm inviting you to come all the way back to the beginning, and invite. I want you to send an invitation to your subconscious brain. It's just an intention. You're setting an intention for some old things that are stored in the depths in a way that's not serving you. You're inviting them to come back up and come up to the surface so that you can process them in a new way, so that you can be part of them in a way, in expressing them, I guess, so that it serves you. So I'm not necessarily, when I talk about attachment, it's not really about, just holding your baby all the time. It's really more about creating a nurturing environment. Nurture equals mature. Like, you have to have the nourishment there and the nutrition and the nurturing in order to reach maturation. So without, one, that you don't get the other, that being mature or reaching maturity is really an expression of, or a side effect of, this primary attachment that we have to the ones that we love. And it's ultimately the context for raising children. It's the sort of parameters around raising kids, and it's their attachment and their relationship to the adults that are responsible for them. So what I'm saying is, in our world where it seems like immaturity is an epidemic, all right, like, check this out, because maturity is really just an outcome of attachment. The realization that development is spontaneous. It's not inevitable. You're not guaranteed that you're going to develop. All right. Here's another way of saying it. We all grow old, but we don't all grow up. You know what I mean? I'm sure you've heard that before too, that in this idea of immaturity being the sort of epidemic sort of level of psyche for people, it's because they never reached maturation. They never had the nurturing environment or around them in order for the gifts inside of them to blossom and come out, so that they could express and they could achieve or realize or develop the wisdom and potential that's inside of them, that infinite thing that we talk about all the time, that soul, that fire of the soul, that sort of like power. Okay. Wound up now. What I want you to get in this idea here is, I'm going to sort of go through progression of a kid in just a few sentences, really, but it's them from birth, and they're 1 year old and they're about 2 years old. We're going to go to about 6 years old here, but what begins to happen for them, birth to around 2 years old, is they're understanding this concept of attachment to them, or closeness. It means like being on the same side as them. It means like taking their side. It means like being there for them. It means like protecting and defending. Like, you're taking their side. And if these things work out this way, and the child feels that sense of closeness and connection, because if they don't have it from their parents, they'll get it later on. They'll just get it from their friends. They'll feel protected by their friends. They will defend all of their friends. They will take their side, and they will feel like their friends are taking their side, and so on. So this is something really supposed to happen when you're tiny. And if you're able to provide that as a parent, then by the time they reach 3 years old or such, just generally, it's not like the day they turn 3 years old, they begin to have this instinct that that sense of closeness or attachment is about instincts that come out of them to obey you, to serve you, to like do your bidding, to make you proud. Right? When a kid is 2 years old, it would never cross their mind that they want to do your bidding. It would never cross their mind. All they want to do is sit on your lap and, wear your shoes and walk around, and they want to talk like you, and they want to be just like you. But in order to do your bidding, like, what is that about? So if they feel that sense of closeness and connection, this is the progression of it. They move into this idea that they not only are seeking, this is really what the concept is about, is that we seek to be like those that we are attached to. It's really simple, almost like monkey see, monkey do. But if you never really get to that point, if you never experience that, and I'm saying that happens around the age 3 or so, relatively, if you don't have that, then you have a serious problem with compliance. You have a serious problem with obedience. And if people are attached to their friends and to their peers, who they want to obey, they want to obey their friends, right? We call it peer pressure, but that's just a bunch of crap, I think. There's always pressure from our peers and from our teachers and from our environment. There's always pressure. Peer pressure doesn't make us do anything. What happens is if we're suffering from the lack of our primary attachment to the people responsible for us in our life, then we don't feel that sense of closeness, and we aren't striving to be like them. We're striving to be like anyone else. So we're not going to obey what the parents and the teachers say. We're going to do our own thing. We're not going to be obedient. We're going to tell them to go to hell. And it's really kind of, I guess, convenient that we call it peer pressure. It's not peer pressure at all. It's a culture. It's like a youth culture that we euphemize. We call it pop culture because it's what's popular. And people are looking to see what's popular as their cues to be guided in their sort of compass, like I talked about at the beginning. The idea of attachment, that primary attachment with that adult that is responsible for you, is about your compass. It's where you get your bearings. It's where you get your sense of connection with the world and what's important, what you value, what matters, what you should have high on your list of priorities. It comes from you learning and watching those adults that are responsible for you. And if it's not your parents or loved ones, and you latch on to friends because you don't have any guidance or anything like that, or maybe your parents weren't very nice people or whatever, you're going to tag on to friends. And some of those things I'm explaining, they do happen later. They happen in like teenage years when the kids finally have, it's like a delayed reaction or something. It's like they finally now have the freedom to act out some of the things that they were talking about, the problems that they were having. So when I'm saying that they're going to do things with their friends, well, when you're 3 years old, what friends are you going to go out and imitate that defy your parents? That's not very realistic. If these things continue to work appropriately according to plan, if this environment is conducive, like I'm talking about, to supporting the development of this child's spiritual growth and the development of their mind and their psyche, then about 4 years old, the child realizes that mom and dad hold close to their heart all of the things that they hold dear. And so the child will strive to be dear and for the parents to hold them dear. So think about this in your own childhood. And it makes me kind of get a little bit clammed up that they want to matter to you. The child wants to matter to that parent. They want to be important to them. They want to feel like they are significant. They want to get their significance from that. They're getting their cues from them. And this is the basis of what we call self-esteem. This is the idea that we have a sense of significance, that we are important and that we matter, and we matter to the ones in our life that are the most important. See, if you're attached to the right people, like let's say you have the attachments to a great teacher and your parents, okay? Well, you might go to school and there might be a bunch of bullies. They might knock you down and take your lunch money, or whatever it is they do. Call you names, knock your books down. All right. See, you're not protecting the kids from that happening, but by serving them through this attachment, you're protecting them from the emotional scarring that takes place. Because if the child is attached, if the child has attachment to the adults in life that are responsible for the child, then the child will see himself through the eyes of the person he's attached to. He will be significant and matter, and what's important to him is the way his parents see and view, not these other kids and not the things that they think and say. See, the child may still be hurt and upset by it, but it's not going to be like this foundational, earth-shattering. And I'm building up to something really important here. It has to do with our class from last week when I talked about forgiveness and when I talked about set points. I drew you guys the animation of the brain and how the brain works and how we store things in subconscious memory. Because let me not get ahead of myself here. I just want you to understand that this is the part where some of the hurts really begin to take place, because this is the phase that we move into where we open up and we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, knowing that in that vulnerability is the potential to be wounded. Okay. I think vulnerable even means to be wounded. I think it's a Latin word or something. I have to look that up before I stick my foot in my mouth. But when you want to matter to somebody and you get any sort of sense that you don't matter, all right, even if it's just a cold blow off from your spouse, or you're excited about something you're sharing with somebody and they just are like, whatever, that's dumb, I'm not even paying attention to you. It hurts, right? And it hurts deeply. And I think that it hurts all of us deeply. Just as adults, we're better at guarding against it. We're more calloused. We're more worn off, because it's at this point that we blossom and we open up, and that we begin in this period to give our heart to those people that we love, to those people that we're attached to. And see, a 4-year-old will sit on your lap all day long and just want you to tell stories. Tell the story again, Daddy. Tell me again. Tell me again about how you knew I was coming and you prepared the nursery. Tell me again about how you taught me to ride the bike. Tell me again about the time that we went camping and we got the canoe and we went down the river and you and I were in the boat together. See, and they want you to repeat them again and again and over, because it means that you are holding them dear. It means that you are important, that they are important to you. If I said that backwards, it's giving that child a sense of connection and significance. It's giving the child the environment that it needs for them to open their heart and to be vulnerable, because we are all going to get wounded. We're all going to get hurt. That's just the nature of humans. We're emotional creatures. And when this moment happens and we open up, if it's safe, if we are in a safe environment, boom, we open wide open. Okay, the limbic brain, the emotional brain, that part of the subconscious brain that I talk about all the time, pulls out all the stops. It says, all right, let's go for it. Let's do this thing. This is awesome. The only problem is when we get hurt. The limbic brain is not going to defend against life and against things anymore. And boom, something happens. So we need that safe environment. As human beings, we need that. As an adult right now, you need it. You can't be like, screw all of them, I can do it, I'm just fine, blah, blah. I don't need anyone. You need love and acceptance and a feeling of significance and belonging. You need to feel important to somebody, and you need to feel like you matter and that what you're doing matters. Because without it, you're destined to some life of indifference where you just don't care about anything at all, where you just are depressed and stuck, and you have no motivation, you have no fire inside of you, you're just tired, and you just are trying to get through everything. See, you need that. So as the adult, your job for that kid is to show up with a hug that's bigger than the child expected. It's to just give them even more love than they expected, so that we're in moments when they are wounded and hurt, that it's okay, because your loving embrace wraps them in safety and lets them know that the thing that is important to them, the people that they are dear to you, you hold them in your heart, and that they are protected from wounding and vulnerable encounters with other people in life, because the one that matters the most is that parent or that adult. And the way that they derive their sense of self-esteem and significance is through the eyes of the one that they're attached to. So if Mommy sees me as a loving, compassionate, wonderful person that's significant and matters and is very important to them, then I don't care what somebody else says, because this is where my primary attachment is, and this is what is important to me, and to hell with all of the rest of it. I'm serious. You do that by bringing the hug. The hug has got to be bigger than they expected. The time you spend with them has to be more than what they expected. It's about exceeding those expectations and creating that sense of safety. It's about creating the environment that is conducive for their inner gifts to blossom and flower and to come to fruition, so that they can express their purpose, what they came here to do. If you believe in the idea of reincarnation, which I'm not going to, battle or make a case for one way or the other, I'm just saying that if you came here to learn something, then you need to learn it. I'm telling you, the best way for you to learn that is by not creating blocks and defenses and shutting down. Because when this child gives their heart and they begin to experience the love, even though there's a risk of getting their heart broken, they just genuinely love things. They look at, my son will look at me and say, "I love you, Dad." And he could have said that when he was 2, but he wouldn't have meant it. He wouldn't have been open in his heart. He would have just been repeating something. But he can look. It's like when they reach the stage, if they loved the cat before, now they really love the cat, right? They really, really love grandma now. So in this idea of being vulnerable, Freud said that, in other words, I'm paraphrasing, but that we were able to handle a certain amount of wounding up to the point that if it's more than we can bear, we create blinders and we numb out and we don't see and experience those things which hurt us. We tune it out. See, if you had been bullied as a kid, but you had the correct primary attachments, then you'll probably remember all of that stuff, but it didn't shake your foundations. It didn't destroy and ruin you, because you had a sense of significance and safety, and you mattered to the ones that were important, not to these dumb bullies. But if you didn't have that, and you were trying to attach to your peers, and what they said and did was important, and you were trying to emulate them, and they came and bullied you, it's almost too much. It's too wounding. The vulnerability opens you up for such a deep cut. What's that song? The first cut is the deepest. That you shut down. You shut off, you blind yourself to it. And so you may not even really remember those bullies because you block them out. It's just too much for you to bear. You just can't, does not compute. You just can't get it to work in there. Block it out. I'm telling you that it's stored in there in the depths of that subconscious emotional memory. And there are things in your life that will trigger that subconscious emotional memory. This is what I call set points. Subconscious emotional triggers. So something will happen, boom, it'll trigger whatever's stored in the limbic brain, and all of the old school programming just jumps into gear. It's like pushing play. It's like pushing the play button on an old tape. And you begin to react. All right, you're not responding. You are on autopilot reaction, and you go into defense. You shut down. You go into protection. You go into protection. So if you understand this idea that it's about you getting into a space where you can open your heart and be vulnerable again, so this is why I'm taking you on this journey, because you right now sitting here listening and watching me on the computer or your phone or wherever you're at, I'm trying to get you to understand that your goal is to open your heart again, is to revisit that place, because it's happened to all of us. I promise, we're humans. We're wounding. Like, we wound people, and we're easily wounded because we're so emotional. And when we're looking for that emotional response and we don't get it, if it's someone we're attached to and we want to matter to them and we feel like we're not, it's deep. It hurts deeply. So it's about us understanding and just being real with ourselves about the past that we've had, the life that we've lived, and asking the question, are there some things in there that I'm numbed out to? Are there some blinders I have that I don't want to see and or remember my past? I got them. I got a bunch of them. I do. And I'm actively, aggressively working towards understanding them, but it's not always about bronze. It's not always about like motivation. It's not like I'm going to get these things taken care of. I'm not going to sleep until I do it, because what we're going to move into here in a minute are these periods of time where we're open to do the work. And if we don't do the work, then the period's gone and we have to wait. We have to wait for the next one. So let me finish here in this idea of attachment, because really this is the context of raising a child in a way that gives them the environment they need to support their growth and expression of whatever lessons they came to learn. So as you as an adult right now trying to achieve goals and dreams, and you're trying to attract and manifest stuff in your life, you have to understand that these things that happen when you were 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 years old are very, very important, and they are influencing your life right now. You might be the one exception, and that's cool. Tell me about it if you are. I'm very intrigued. I would love to hear your story, but for the 99.999% of us, we are influenced and affected by it each and every day. I promise you. I promise you. And if you're, my age, you're part of the last 3 generations, you've got your work cut out for you. I promise that, because we've gotten away from the way it should be. We've gotten away from the ability to create those attachments and pass down the cues and the guidance and the lessons of esteem and significance, because the kids are no longer attaching to parents. See, I grew up in a family, in a lot of families. Like my parents divorced when I was 1. They divorced. They each got remarried. They each had 2 kids, and then they got divorced again and got remarried. And I spent years going from this family to that family to this one to these half brothers and sisters to these half brothers. And I'm not saying that it was bad by any means. I'm not saying that it was horrible. But what it did was it created a more difficult mountain or problem for me to overcome, so that I could have the environment conducive for me to self-actualize, for me to like get to the root of who I am, to get to the core of my purpose and what I'm supposed to do, what I'm here to do. And so right now I'm going through a lot of process where I'm inviting some things to come up from the depth. I'm saying, I don't know what it is, but I know that it's in there and it's not serving me. I've got it stored in a way that is hurting me. It's creating protection and defense in my life, and I need it to surface. And I'm telling you, when you set the intention for that to happen, you should keep a pen and a piece of paper handy with you, because these things will come to you at the most random times. You will be trying to figure out which yogurt you want to buy at the store, and then boom, you'll remember that time from when you were 11 years old and that dog chased you home. And you go, where did that memory come from? Well, I'm telling you, you set the intention for these things to come up, and write them down. And we're going to talk about what to do with them. We're going to talk about how you process those things. And I'll tell you, it's the forgiveness process. It's what we spent our whole webinar last week. Our whole fireside chat was the 5 steps to forgiveness. If you missed that one and you want it, just shoot me an email and I'll get you a link for it. Okay, I've got some more notes here about this. But I think I want to move on away from this idea of attachment and into this concept of sensitive periods. And when I named it that because that's what it was named by Maria Montessori. She called them sensitive periods in a child's life and time. But when I created the webinar, I called them sensitive periods, and my wife said, "Are you sure that doesn't sound like PMS?" And I laughed with her, and we had a giggle. So I tried to come up with a different name for it. But ultimately, here's where we're going with this: that a bee, what do you call them? A hive of bees swarm of bees, colony of bees. I probably got that wrong, but whatever the name is for a whole bunch of bees, swarm. Swarm, I think, is just when they're attacking you. They have a series of female bees that could be the queen, but they pick one of them to be the queen, and then they just give her tons of food and feed her and feed her and feed her during this specific period of time in the bee's development. So if they actually picked that bee too late and fed the bee, it wouldn't have the appetite, and it wouldn't develop and grow as big, and it wouldn't be the queen, and they would all be without a queen. So there's this like narrow window of time that's available for the queen bee to be selected, and then the actions to help that come to fruition. Okay. Another example of this is a butterfly will come to a tree and then plant the eggs right up under the angle from where the tree and the branch are, so they're protected from weather and such. And when the little caterpillars come out, they're like crazy hungry. They have this incredible appetite, but they're too little to eat the big coarse leaves on the tree. So through this period of time from birth to like 2 days, they have the extreme sensitivity to light. They are drawn to light. So what this does is they see the light up in the sky and they crawl up the branch, and they get up to the tip of the branch and they eat the tiny little buds that are up there, the tender little buds, and they just eat and eat and eat. And for 2 days, they eat that stuff like crazy. Once they are big enough to now eat some of the bigger coarse leaves, all of a sudden their period of sensitivity to light, it's gone. As fast as it came, it's gone. So if they missed that window, then, if they were sensitive to light, but for some reason they didn't go towards it and they did something different, all right, this is what I'm building up to, is when you have periods of sensitivity in your life where you're supposed to go one way, but your head gets in the way and you're like, no, and you do something different, then it's not as fatal as you're going to die because you won't get any food, but it chokes out your ability to express the growth of something deep inside of your spirit and your soul. All right. There are periods that take place in our life where we are, where we have a disposition to something. Okay. And this isn't an age or stage kind of thing. This is what I'm talking about, it being spontaneous. That inside of us all is a potential. Like, you're not born genetically programmed to speak English or whatever your language is. You don't have language. You learn language, and you learn it through the process of attachment. But language isn't just inherently in you, okay? So right now, my son, he's 16 months old. And for the last few months, he's been going through this sensitive period of creating, where he's just like talking all the time. Now, it's not really words. It's just, jabber, jabber. And he'll run up and point at something, and he'll just tell me all about it. Okay, so he's gone from an infant, and now he's observing the environment, and he's seeing these people making these sounds and doing stuff. So now he's sensitive now to this awareness inside of his body. Okay, he's controlling the muscles in his throat and his diaphragm and his mouth with his tongue, and he's shaping them into sounds, and he's, in his mind, he's talking, and it doesn't matter. He doesn't understand what our words are either. It probably makes perfect sense to him what he's saying, but it's rewarding to him. All right. So if he was going through this sensitive period and he was jibber jabbering, and I said, "Shut up, baby. Those aren't words. What are you saying? That's stupid. That's the wrong way to say it." And I mean, I don't imagine anyone would say that to a baby. You'd have to be a super jerk or something to say that to a baby. But if the point I'm trying to make is that if he's supposed to be doing that through this period, and then I, in my mind, interject and step in to say, no, that's not the way it's supposed to go, and then I take that away from him, then his period of time where he moves, where he's not so sensitive to that anymore, it's almost like if you take somebody, oh boy, I don't want to screw this up. It's just coming to my head. But like if you take a developing child and you keep them in darkness, and then you take them out at like, age 10 or something, even though they're not blind, they just can't see. They're outside, their eyes are open, but the circuits were never developed. It just didn't happen. And so they're blind. It's the same kind of idea here. And I want to build this case for you, okay? Because I'm just introducing this idea of sensitive periods. But if there is a moment, and these things are transient, it's like a wave in the ocean. If you were going to go surfing, you like get out of there on your surfboard, and here comes a wave, and you're ready to catch it. And if you miss the wave, you got to wait for the next one. Okay, you don't get to just go, well, I want to surf now and try to muscle your way through it with brawn or something. You have to wait. You have to wait for the next wave. Now, the good news about life is, in the ocean, is there's always another wave. Okay, it's just sometimes it takes a lot longer than you want it to. You want it now. You want to do it now. So I'm inviting you to maybe understand, or just think about this idea that there are waves or sensitive periods. There are transient phases of time that begin and end where we are highly susceptible to certain things. So the way that my son's school works, I was telling you about that earlier. In the Montessori school, they have all these lessons that are on the shelf, and they're like little block games or puzzles or pouring water from one pitcher to another and learning motor skills and counting games and all kinds of stuff as they learn. They're allowed to go and pick whatever they want to work on. And what happens for one child versus the child next to them is they will inherently be interested in different things. They will have periods of time that other things are more appealing and important to them. And if you've ever seen a child, you'll know that they want to repeat. They can like get onto something. Like right now, my son is in love with getting his basket of tractors, going outside and digging in the yard and putting them in a little dump truck and driving the truck around. And he'll go out every day and do that for hours and hours and hours. So I could go and just follow. I'm not really a mean guy. But what I could do is go out there and be like, what are you doing? You're digging holes in my yard? Don't do that. That's wrong. You don't need to be doing that. Just play with your toys over here and, quit making problems. Okay, I could totally, in that moment, shut him down. I could take away the environment that is needed in order for him to grow and express what he needs to during that sensitive time. You see, it's like for a child looking at all these lessons on the shelf, it's like all of a sudden the room goes dark and a spotlight shines down on one of them, and they just zero in on that one lesson, and they just want to do that one, and they're so enthralled by it, and they're going through whatever sensorial or kinesthetic activity that this lesson is teaching them, and they're doing it again and again and again. So during that time, when they are honoring, okay, follow me here, this is for you as an adult, not just a kid. When they are honoring the fact that they are in this period, the light is shining down on something, and they're so attracted to it, and it's so exciting to them, and it brings them such reward and joy that they feel their heart open up again. Right? In that moment, right then, it's like some internal fire is lit. It's like this battery inside of them that just gives them energy and power, and it never runs out. You know what it's like when you are working on a project or something and you love it and you just work on it and you don't care. You never get tired. It's 2 a.m. You're like, so what? This is so awesome. I love it. Right? The same thing is true in the expression of this child during this sensitive period. And when they work, and then when they get out of whatever that lesson or that time period, that transient piece of time, that period, when that's over and they got out of it what they need to, then they're done with it and they move on to something else. See, this is what life is meant to be like. Life is a series of these conquests where I'm honoring inside of me what it is that's calling me, what it is that I love to do and I'm passionate about, but more importantly than just that, I'm listening to the guidance and where I'm supposed to be focusing and putting my energy. Because if I'm doing it the right way, I'm full of limitless energy and joy and excitement and passion and happiness. But when I'm not, and I tractors and I come and say, no, don't do that. Come do your trucks right here on the cement. Quit digging holes in my yard. Then what I do in that moment is I take him away from being in that space. And instead of having this like eternal battery of power and excitement, it's just whatever. We just shut down and we become the victim of indifference. We're just bored and we're tired. And everything is so labor intensive. And it just can't, it just won't work. Do you see what I'm talking about? You know what that feels like. I don't have to ask you, do you? You know what it feels like to just be so exhausted and worn out, to be so just like deep into the labor that it takes to do something that you absolutely hate. And you know what? For a lot of us, it's a job. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that jobs are bad. I run a clinic where I'm the, owner. So I'm an entrepreneur and I have an online forum here. But you know what? That's me running my own show. And, I'm like the entrepreneur, but it's a job. You're right. But here's the difference. It's something that I love. It's honoring like the gifts that I have, and it's allowing this growth inside of me and the expression. It's not like I'm going to go up the street. I live in the town where Walmart corporate headquarters, and that's just a huge culture here in this town. And there's a lot of corporate people that I'm not really convinced that they love it. They may say they do, and some of them might, there's exception to it. But what I'm saying is, I don't think that they as human beings, as the inner child is saying, I want to go and work a 9-to-5 corporate thing. That's all I'm saying. That when you're able to honor those things and those periods in your life, then you have this like limitless energy and passion and excitement for life. And what I'm telling you is when you're in that place, you are in spirit. You are inspired. You are vibrating like crazy high. You're just like frequency is turned up through the roof and you are a magnet. Like people are so starved for that. And it's this world that we live in. We've never, let me choose my words differently. So many of us never got the opportunity to have the environment that let us grow our gifts and to let us blossom and to be who we truly are. We never had that opportunity. And so we're just numbed out and we're starving for it. And when we see somebody like that, oh man, hold me back. I gotta get over there. I gotta talk to that person. I gotta know them. I gotta know what they're doing. I gotta know what's going on with them. It's as simple as understanding the moments in time that are speaking to you so that you can honor them and get out of it what you need to. So here's a conversation that my wife had with me the other day. She said, I was sitting up in bed with little Milo. He's our 16-month-old. And both of our kids went through a round of RSV, which is respiratory syncytial virus. But they're tough boogers, man. Those kids, maybe a few nights I gave one of them some cough medicine, so he could sleep. But it just like wakes you up in the night, gagging because you can't breathe and coughing and mucus. And there was lots of puke and stuff like that. If you're a parent, you can relate. But these kids are like tanks, man. They're both chiropractic babies, breastfed for years, never had vaccines and all that stuff. Awesome kids. So she's sitting up with him in the middle of the night and nobody can sleep because he's crying and coughing. And she said, I realized something. I thought that I was supposed to be super duper successful in business and change the world and have several clinics and have a franchise. I thought that's what I was supposed to do. I thought that was me being successful. But what I forgot was that really my goal, the thing that is the most important to me right now, are these kids. And not just the kids, but our family. It is the unit and the environment that we are creating as like a sarcophagus, an incubation period, a mode of protection for not only ourselves to support each other in our marriage, but for these children to be able to feel safe enough to open their hearts and let their gifts come through, to honor their sensitive periods so that they can, do what they came to do. And what I realized right then is that was her honoring the thing that she was sensitive to. Is she was like saying, I thought it was supposed to be one way. I thought it was supposed to be super career woman, driven businesswoman. But really what my heart is saying is, yeah, those things are great and money is great, but it's not what's important to me right now. What's important is this transient period of time where my kids are little, is this little window of time before they grow up and they're gone. This little minuscule sliver of a timeline where I have the most impact on the expression of not only their life, but their ability in the future to reach their potential and to achieve their dreams and achieve their goals. And I just felt like that was so profound. I felt like that was so important because here we are as adults. All these things so far I've been talking about is the development of children. But here we are as adults trying to, I guess, wrap our head around it. We're really just big kids. That's all we are. Just trying to wrap our head around where it went wrong and what we can do to fix it, I guess. And I don't really think that anything needs fixing, but I do think that it needs some work. So I guess that's fixing. Maybe I'm just being semantic about it. What I want you to do is I want you, as we've gone through this and you've been making your list, like I told you to do, a list of people that you might have been thinking of, maybe experiences that happened with your parents where you didn't feel like you got the love and, I don't want to sound all like crybaby about it or something. I remember I was about 12 years old, and it was when my dad was married to my second stepmother, and they were obviously on the outs, but I didn't know it at the time because they were protecting me while I was visiting for the summer. And she said the word pizza instead of pizza, and man, he just came unglued. He said, "It's not pizza, it's pizza. Say it the right way. It's not said that way," and just launched into this belittling kind of defense, I guess. And I watched her just shrink, and I watched her cower, and I watched her back off, because, when I look back on it now, I understand that they both were working through their own lessons in life. And so I'm not judging one of them being right or wrong, but that is burned into my mind. And I think the reason that I'm telling the story is because there is a real lesson for me in that. So it's not a judgment of she said the word wrong or he was mean to her because of the way she said it. It's about me seeing the wounding that happened there. One of them, they were just, I guess, lashing at each other. They were both so hurt and trying to keep it together on the surface. But I saw how that made, I saw how it made them feel. And I knew that I was going to make a decision about me, that I didn't ever want to make anyone feel that way. All right. So that sounds real good. Right now I'm telling you the story, but the truth of the matter is, in the moment, I was so mad. I was so shut down. I was like, "You're being a jerk." And I was being judgmental of him. And that's what was stuck. That's what I have stuck. And that's what I try to work through. And I have hundreds of events in my life, as I'm sure you do too. Hundreds, if not thousands of events So here's what I want you to do with that list. I want you to take each one of those things one at a time, just just do one of them a day. And I want you to go through the 5 steps of forgiveness. So I'll just recap them real quick for you. 1 is forgive yourself. 2 is forgive the other person. 3, give them permission to forgive you. 4, learn the lesson, see the good, find the gold. And 5 is to wish them well. 5 is the litmus test to see if you've done it right. If you don't know those steps, then watch the fireside chat from last week called 5 Steps to Forgiveness. If you do not have the link for that, if you didn't register and you don't have the link, email me and I'll get it to you. Because that process is it's the foundation. It's the way that we break free from the subconscious emotional triggers that are stored in the limbic brain from the periods in our past where we were wounded, where we were too vulnerable, and we got cut too deep. And I want you to, the same way that I told this story about my wife having this sort of like epiphany, realization moment where she had clarity. She said, "Oh, I see it. That's what it, okay, I get it now. I understand what the point is. It's not this other thing that I thought, it's this. And I know it is that because I feel so good and I feel so excited and this renewed hope and energy and just like passion for what can be." That's the feeling. That's how you know. All right. That's how you know if you've done the work and you've done it right. And that if you are honoring and supporting that thing that's inside of you. So when those sensitive periods come, if you haven't done this work, then they're going to come, but you're going to be so shut down, you're not even going to know that they came and went. So I'm inviting you now to, there's a big picture and there's more pieces to it. And I'm not trying to oversimplify the whole thing. But what I'm saying is right now, the next step, the next logical step, the thing right in front of you, the next thing that you actually do instead of this big, huge goal or dream or accomplishment, like the thing that you do next is the 5 steps to forgiveness. You begin to neutralize the way that these things are imprinted in your hard wiring, in the neuroplasticity, in the emotional parts of your brain, so that when you think about them, you don't immediately knee jerk and react back into some old program. So that when the next wave comes along in your life, that you're prepared, that you're ready, that you're there to say, this is my life and I only get one. I only get one shot at this. And it's important to me. So I'm done being indifferent. I'm done doing the things in my life that steal my time and my life away from me. I'm making a declaration that I'm going to be happy, that I'm going to be peaceful. And most importantly, I'm going to be quiet and I'm going to listen to the whisper that's inside of me. Because our world is full of a lot of noise, but spirit is a whisper. And if you can just be quiet and listen, it will talk and will guide and it will point you in the direction. It will be your job to take action. Okay? All right. That's it for today. I hope that you guys like this one. Please give me some feedback. Give me some comments. Send me some emails. Just let me know what you thought about this. Like I said, this was a new topic. I've never talked out loud about it. It's just things that have been in my head, things that I've read in books. And so it's really, really fun to get out of the box a little bit. You know, the same way I tell you to get out of your comfort zone, have some fun, do some things that push you. This was one of those moments for me. So I practice what I preach. There's one thing that I want to ask you guys to do. So before you run off, I want to ask you guys to help me out. And I'm going to pull something up on the screen here. This is a link that's going to go to a donation page. And I want you to if you feel like you got some value out of this, if this was important to you, okay, I'm not going to, there's nothing to buy here. But I want you to make a gesture. I want you to give. Okay. And when you click the button here that says donation, you get to put in, $20, $50, 50 cents, whatever you want, whatever you feel comfortable. Here's what it looks like let me share my screen. When we click on that link, we're going to be taken to this school. This is my son's school, and they are constantly raising money because they are constantly at risk of the doors being closed. You can read a little bit more about what it takes to run a school like that. When you get to this page, you just click this donate button right down here. It says donate. Click the button. It takes you right to a secure PayPal page where you can use a PayPal account, or you can use a debit card or a credit card in order to make a donation. Please do that for me. It would mean a lot. I know that I get a lot out of these classes too. So there's a lot of growth that happens for me. And I know that you guys get a lot out of it because you keep coming back and you keep being part of it. So please do this for me. Make a gesture and help this school out and help these children out, because this is a place that provides an environment for these people, for these growing children, and the stewards of these people, these students, these children, the teachers and the administrators, they understand the concepts that I'm sharing with you. Right? They understand the importance of the child giving their heart to the ones they're attached to, because you can't parent a child who hasn't given you their heart. You can't teach a child who hasn't given you their heart. And these people, they get it. All right. And they're the reason that I'm beginning to understand. And I'm forever grateful and in debt to them. So what I would like to do is today, of all of the hard work that I've put into this, and the energy and the preparation and the thinking, I want to send all of that energy here to these people so that they can benefit from it as well. So please do that for me. Click the button here in the sidebar that says donation. Then when you get to the page, click on the donate button. You have a chance to read a little bit about it. And please make a donation to the school. For those of you that do it, send me an email after the fact with your receipt or whatever you get for it. And I've got something special that I have for you, a surprise for you guys. So that's it. That's all that I want to say about that. And I just want to reinforce for you that if you understand this idea of attachment, and you understand how important it is for you to be able to utilize the sensitive times, the periods that you have in life, then you're ahead of 90% of the rest of the world. So go through the steps that I showed you and begin to identify what experiences that took place in your life and in your past shut you down. You're not going to remember all of them. It's okay. Just get started. Get one of them. Just do one and go through the 5 steps. All right. Thank you guys. I love you. And I will see you later. Bye.